we're going through the comments from the co-ops and others. Yeah, so 2G, I'm sorry, 2H, propose to give it first instance of comments by one of those groups.
P. Brad Atchison did have something, but it didn't really change anything.
Right. Yeah, B and C.
And there again, that I don't know how to separate the limited scale and the commercial scale when we have things like that don't. Because going to these two on B and C are also addressed in section 2 under B. The same costly regulatory standards apply to limited. You're not going to get into limited scale. So I don't know how to separate that out without going through the end and saying, only these sections pertain to the limited scale.
Could that be done in 2 ways? Could it be done through the method that you're suggesting, Luke? But then also, if where we know if a certain part does not, we don't want it to apply to the limited scale. Would it hurt to go ahead and have a second song in those?
I think, as Doug said, not having it easy to find is going to be the best clarity. Well, I'm just talking about Brian Atchison's on page 5. Their comment that those 2 reports shouldn't be necessary. Well, do we require them or not? And then it jumps forward into this applicability and prohibitions. How do we go through and list what is applicable for limited scale and what's applicable for commercial?
Steve, is that something that you could, as we go through this, not today, but in office hours, could you at least start a list for us? These sections that the body has talked about just applying to this group.
So we're going to gear this thing towards commercial scale, and then if there's sections there that should say not necessarily limited scale, that's what we're marking the ones that are not necessary. And then we do a second version of it later, another part B or something. Or where do you guys?
I think it'd be
See, at the end of this, in the last section, is provisions applicable to limited scale. So then you would have to list out all of those ones that don't.
everything would be in the one document, it's just there'd be two
Yeah.
sections of that one document, just to keep it all together.
Yeah, that covers that part.
And we got these exceptions at the end, makes it almost impossible to be able to first figure
So on B and C, we want those to apply to all sects or not? Kind of like Brown Atchison, because obviously those are very, much smaller scale.
So I could indicate that, so we just keep that added to the list at the end. Where we actually right now, so what doesn't. This document's 40 pages, but it's read it.
We're on, in your new copy, we're on the bottom of page 5, section 2, part 1, B and C, reviewing Brown Atchison's suggestion that B and C not apply to LSAC.
I mean, you could just, everywhere that it says that it needs to be in there, just not applicable for license scale.
You can actually have it summarized at the end of number 11.
Sensing a consensus for B and C not to apply to LSACs?
Sounds fine.
Have you guys had a discussion while I was on about whether these are even possible? And does somebody contacted MRCS or Department of Wildlife Parks, see if that's even within their job description? I mean, you guys have talked about that before.
So you guys agree with those two paragraphs are not applicable? That's what the other guys suggested.
That appears to be the consensus.
Okay.
You got it. Thank you, Lex.
Until you were coming, I don't think that question has been asked.
I mean, what asking these people, these agencies to take on tasks that they may really be very surprised if they would say, if they wouldn't say, that's not what we're able to do. I mean, and,
That's what the NRCS does.
I mean, they will do this for a commercial operation. I mean, I know they engage in that type of stuff for farmers, but is there anything more funding and say, agency?
Well, I would say if you're talking about, I don't want to say, affecting soils,
Well, I know,
then that would be fall under their jurisdiction. I don't know.
I
For
mean,
peace of mind, would you prefer that Steve send it to these two just to verify?
I had thought about trying to stop by and ask everybody, but time, again, but they'll be very surprised if they feel that they are, perhaps they're not. But, just recall that an initial letter, the one that was definitely interested in this, the initial letter the commissioners had said that probably wouldn't happen. So that doesn't happen, do these things just get struck out and nothing happens? None of these things are applicable.
Steve, the question was asked, could you possibly call those two agencies and mention what we're talking about and ask that they, is that feasible? Is
that within their normal duties, or would they consider that even? I mean, it looks to me like they take, a specific course of looking at it and creating reports. I mean, both of these tend to have a lot to do with it. I mean, perhaps, I don't know what other counties use for that type of need.
If Steve is able to verify that they are in fact able to do those,
Yeah, I
then we
mean,
would be okay with those two sections.
they're created for specific purposes, but I don't know if this would fall under the funding to even have the staff allowed to do this. I mean, the idea is great,
And I would say, why not? If they're able to, if we can get verification that they are, then I would be okay with those two.
or if they would, I mean, how do we convince them? I guess it's the company's,
The report may not be free either. The report may not be free either.
we're not in the business of creating reports
Yeah.
for charge. I just, I have concerns that that's a possibility. If it's not a reasonable possibility, then probably you just won't get it. Company applying under this, would say it doesn't apply, you don't have to do it because it's not feasible. It could be just a guess.
So if we hear back that it's not feasible, then we can revisit that and talk about either striking them or changing them.
That'd be one we have now.
We're ready to move on to the next.
I'd like to have it, so I'm afraid they'll say it's not going to come
And I think now's the time to find that
to.
out.
Now's the time to find out.
Okay, so the next one goes to the H. H. And, yeah, we're looking for these coverage. Suggestions.
Green, the red, and purple.
Page.
I don't have a problem with leaving that in there.
Don't say anything.
Leave it as is.
I think it's something that should be considered.
Moving on to 2B, I'm sorry, 2B.
It's just what I don't know how to take it out. Because some of those standards do, but unless you said these standards and regulations apply to limited commercial proposed, all of that, all that it says except where specifically noted. So I think we had that as to say some of these provisions are going to be specifically noted and do not apply to limited scale. So I think that would be fine to say it that way.
I think we're saying just make sure it doesn't apply to them.
I think it's fine.
Just get rid of the recommendation.
Keep B as unrelated. B?
I thought, I'm reading that, and I guess I'm putting more stock in the comments that all three of the companies had a response on rather than just the one, you know. All three of them did. My first thought on this goes to what Evergy stated, that we have the battery energies in a separate deal. Meaning that this document bans batteries. But if we want to look into batteries, then we put that in a separate set of regulations.
Or would you say instead of banning that, you say this document doesn't regulate the use of batteries, because the next document for the batteries is going to.
Right, but then, as of right now, we decided we want to ban batteries at this current time. Now, that can change in the future, and I think at that point, when they're,
Even to smaller systems,
but they don't apply. Personal accessories don't apply to these standards. So
the middle size.
the limited scale and commercial scale, these standards apply, and those are the ones the batteries are prohibited in. I think we need more information on batteries before we allow it.
There is a class going on here in the next month, down in Manhattan, and they have a Zoom meetings, and they actually have them recorded too, and they're all about the battery systems. There's 3 different meetings. One's about fire protection, one's the history of it, and one's just a summary of what's currently in place. I can, when I get them, I can put them on a jump drive. If you guys want to go view them or something sometime, we can do that.
I just think in the interest of getting, moving on, we leave them as prohibited, and then once we get this done, then we can, if that topic comes up, then we can approach it, because if we try to go learn about batteries now while we're still trying to figure this out,
You might as well add a bunch of them. I just say leave it, the batteries prohibited and move on until they can prove that it, but right now they're having trouble even in the small outfits, because I got a buddy in town that's using batteries and they're sorting out and everything else.
I would pose a slightly alternate way. I'm a bit uncomfortable about having 2 different documents that disagree with each other. That's unclear to me, to any particular company, anybody else could be in unclear reports, I would think. So if we're talking about having a separate document that we're talking about.
I'm not talking about making one now. I'm saying we leave them as prohibited.
Yeah, so if we create, if in the future we create a separate document that regulates batteries, then at the same time we would need to go back and
Modify this
language that batteries are allowed under certain conditions.
Right, but that's why I say in order
Just so
to,
they both agree.
Right.
So,
In other words, leave it like it is until we get this done, and then if something comes up about the batteries, then we can always return. we go in here for batteries now, we're talking another 4 or 5 months if we get past this date.
2 hours, it's gonna cost much.
And just so the current draft version is posted on the website, does it have all of this stuff on it?
Yes, it doesn't have very, that one, but there's a couple pages that you guys have to do. It has all this. And there's all the recommendations from the utility.
So we the course. Moving into 4.
I'd say like number 4, they don't forget until it pretty well covered everything. Give the right to basically take it out if it's not up to par. We marked it from 5 years down to 1 year.
So where you see that line out in red, number 4, that's actually their recommendation. The original document was not lined out. So the recommendation was to line it out.
I think our discussion at that time, and there's only 3 of us here that were in that original discussion, was not that the regulations would change, that would change the scope of the project. I think we were thinking of failures in like a conservation plan or, I mean, somewhat remember the discussion, but that's why we wanted it to go from a 5 to a 1 year amortization period. Because we said if there was a default in something, we didn't want it to sit there for 4 years before they fixed it. Meaning, we were thinking of a drainage issue that came up. Not so much, I don't believe we were thinking that these regulations would change.
So it was more about the stormwater causing an issue that
Yeah.
didn't see on paper.
And so that's where I don't know if we're talking about the same thing.
It doesn't seem like we're talking about the same thing. They're worried about us changing the regs and
And that's how it's going to work. I see what you're saying about stormwater, or another issue like
We're, if they came in, they got approved for the project in year 1, and then at year 10, something, the county NRCS codes changed or whatever, and they had some damage happen because of, terrace broke and water ran down through the middle of it. We were kind of thinking that didn't give them the right to continue on. They had to fix that. We didn't want them to wait for 5 years. Reading through it now, again, I agree that that's different than what I think we were talking about in the beginning.
that. People are seeing it differently than what you were seeing it.
Well, and I don't even know that we looked at it that way, really.
it was all about stormwater and what's going on paper, these buildings, and
Right.
cause a problem with the neighbors or something. That's what we thought.
When I first read this, I looked at that again. I don't think that's what it was. And I was thinking more like these people are thinking. Point of view, and I didn't know what you guys were thinking.
I think the only thing we changed from the original document was the 5 to the 1. Because we just said we don't want to wait 5 years if there's an issue. What this really reads is that a future change in the regulations, they may have to change the system to meet it, but they get 5 years to do so.
Yeah, by going from 5 years to 1 year, that gives us the right, instead of sitting and waiting like you guys are saying, you get it hurried up and can't, shut it down.
I think once it's been approved, my guess would be that you're operating in accordance with all the steps that you guys have put in. Look at an attorney time if you're trying to do something.
I mean, what they struck out is where we kind of went through. The grant of a permit does not vest rights in current standards for grading, stormwater management, drainage requirements, or erosion control. And any owner or operator may be subject to changes to any regulation herein, and will be required to comply. So I think that's where we went for grading, stormwater management. I think that maybe the companies that gave these recommendations were interpreting that differently.
So we need to determine if this clause, the way they suggest it, is one appropriate, and then two, we need to also add an additional one to achieve what you were originally seeking to.
And we were more worried about the commercial side than the utility side too.
But this, I mean, it goes in with the, codes and building standards. Well, our building codes could change in concurrent years. And this is saying that just because you have a conditional use permit does not mean that it's not subject to future change. In the grandfather clause. I don't know what's right.
Well, I would suspect it was built to the codes that were in place at the time it was approved. They had a tough time making them jump to new, more stringent codes. I mean, it'd be a difficult road.
What are you thinking of, kind of what you might be thinking of? When someone builds a house, they're building the house to the codes of the time of the construction. Once someone builds their homes, or a contractor builds it for them, usually the case, that contractor is not subject to coming back in and making a change if the codes change.
Unless they apply for a
Everything's
new,
done.
unless
Yeah,
they
obviously, if there's not, yeah, if
make a
there's second-
modification. But, and that's where I don't think that that's what we're talking about in this, I guess. Because if you leave in the for grading, stormwater management, drainage requirements, or erosion control, that's what that clause is about to me. It's not about future changes in,
other parts of the regulation.
yeah,
How's
It's
that-
only-
How's that any different than, say, a building code? I mean, if you do the dirt work according to the county approvers, and then you come back later and say, whoops, that rain shows we didn't do it good enough, we're gonna force you to do this other way.
They're doing it right now all over Jackson County.
As far as what,
The drainage, like it's from all this heavy rain we've had. I know of 3 places right now that they've got a deal in with the county to get it straightened out, where the county's gonna come in and charge them to straighten it up so the water drains right to tearing everybody's property down.
I don't know the specifics of
So
I
look,
guess basically this is saying that we're not going to allow that. We're going to say, we reserve the right
that. Yeah.
for future changes.
If that would be really clearly stated up front.
Yeah.
Extremely clear way in the rights
so look to your point, make sure that whatever wording we come up with for that part 4, make sure that it's clear that it applies to the grading, the stormwater damage, and stormwater management, drainage requirements, road control, and only those things.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I kind of think so. I mean, I wish I knew what was going through the head of the Free State guy that wanted that crossed out.
Because he reads it legally, that applies to about anything. That's how he's reading it. I mean, that's my take on it.
That's partly what it says. So how would we modify that? To accomplish that focus.
Actually, it's about 3 different topics in that one paragraph.
If we change the 1 back to a 5, does that fix this paragraph? Can we add something somewhere else that if the drainage issue is a problem? Because I know we don't want stuff about drainage further down. You have 1 year to fix problems, to still keep the stormwater drainage in line. Instead of giving them 5 years to fix it. keeping what they want. But if we just simply change our one back to 5 years, would that fix this problem if they were legally agreed and let them see?
I don't think that they had a problem with the timeline, because they didn't make any marks on that. Their problem is with the vested rights, meaning that you can't make a regulation that affects us down the road. I mean, you can't make a new regulation that,
And enforce it.
yeah, that takes away what they've already agreed to in these. And I don't think that's what we intended when we,
No, that's not what we're talking about. This,
They're saying the way it reads is the arguably required.
I think the way they interpret it. But how do we clarify it so it's not misinterpreted?
don't they reapply for the special conditional use permits, don't they reapply every 3?
It's good for 20 years.
Good for 20?
So what if you divide that paragraph into 2 paragraphs? The first part addresses the issues they have, and the second part, what you guys already have. Where it goes against basically the county regulation in the first paragraph, you know, the regulating authority with the use permit. And the second half would be about the drainage and other NRCS and whatever else would come up with another. You still got to apply by other agencies and that bylaws. So you could say no vested rights in that, for that part that they're recommending, but there are vested rights in, there are vested rights in what they're recommending, but there are no vested rights in stormwater and so on. I think that.
What was that you approved for the virtual wording of the second sentence, which begins with the grant of a permit does not vest rights and current standards over. And that, to some extent, laid out what,
That's what I did think.
what that's.
What that was about, but they took it out.
Do we need, is one possibility is to add one word. Not need to figure out where. What I'm thinking of is owners. So if you take out current standards, you bring to that sentence, the grant of a permit does not vest rights. I mean, for grading, stormwater management, drainage requirement, erosion management, the same thing with drainage. Right? If you take out current standards out of that sentence, and just start right in behind for grading, stormwater management, and drainage. Like what we were talking about,
Well, that's the description that they're saying the grant of a permit does not vest rights and current standards. That means that that doesn't give you the right to hold on to your current standards if we change the standard down the road. But that's strictly for those, I mean, in here we have it can't be on more than 15% grade, I think.
Which is pretty stupid.
Yes, but I mean, if we come back and find out in 5 years that 15% is too steep, we want to drop it to 10, but they've already built structures on a 15% grade, we can't require them to go in and change that realistically. Because that, I mean, I think that's the gist of what that paragraph is trying to explain.
and their objection.
I would be surprised if you force them to change almost anything once it's improved and in place.
Mhm.
The cost on some of these you talked about could be more than the cost of all the equipment and everything else. Something turns out that isn't as anticipated. And this is a very specific area of law that is, could be very particular from the city and figure it out.
We wouldn't always suggest this, but should we mull this over for a while? I don't know if we're going
I don't think this is something I'm going to figure out tonight.
section.
I was kind of thinking the same, is we need to get some more clarity.
My guess is the three-step stuff in red is what they believe is important for law, but, I'm not gonna guess at that.
Well, and they're only, I mean, as they put down here and at the end of it, require financing and long-term asset certainty.
Yes.
I would read Beverage's comment to concur with that.
Right. I mean, so reading what Free State so if we would leave it as we have it, but the grant of a permit does not vest rights and current standards, leave that, and then add in what they say, approved special use, conditional use, not special, conditional use permit shall vest the applicant's right to construct, operate, maintain in accordance with the permit and approved plans. Later adopted regulations shall apply prospectively only, except to the extent compliance is required by state or federal law or is reasonably necessary to address a demonstrated threat to public health or safety.
And then continue with what we just do.
Yeah, and maybe go back to the 5 year. I mean, that would put in the disclaimer that it still gives you the right to operate.
One of my questions on the 5 year one here is the next, one of the following nouns is amortization. Amortization is usually an accounting term that allows a cost to be spread for whoever's paying the cost to be spread over several years. Not that they don't split the work over 7 years, it's the actual cost that then they allocate under tax forms and other accounting. So that 501, obviously that's something we would need to clarify. If we want the whatever correction needs to be made within that 1 year period, if they want to amortize the cost over 5 years, I see no problem with that, with the accounting part of it.
Well, but that would affect, I mean, one instance I'm trying to put through, it would be if in 20 years our grading standards change. Say we went from 15, if that's too steep, we're going down to 12. Well, they've got some on 15% grade, but they want to repower it. They're going to put new panels on Well, then they would have to apply to the new standards.
To the current standards at that new time.
Yes.
Right.
So, but we would give them a 5-year time period to do so? I don't know.
Well, I would say on a deal like that, it depends on the size of the project for the amount of time it takes.
I guess I got concerned about vested rights and amortization period, and those are, I'm guessing, have very specific legal meanings, and lots of case law behind it. And we're trying to kind of throw them around here, and we have no idea what we're doing. And that really concerns me.
That's a good suggestion. In this section, we keep that first sentence, the existence of these regulations or application for a permit do not vest rights for any owner or operators of any vested right in any project or application of regulations. An approved special conditional use permit shall vest the applicant's right to construct, operate, maintain, and decommission the approved facility in accordance with the permit and approved plans. Period. Later adopted regulations shall apply respectively only, except to the extent compliance is required by state or federal law or is reasonably necessary to address a demonstrated threat to public health or safety. Period. Any other regulations shall be may be modified and make current permit orders subject therein as long as the county gives a blank-year chemical completion period for compliance with the modified regulations. And then continue with the following last sentence as it is. The operator may apply for an extension with the zoning administrator to be approved by the board of county commissioners.
I want to somehow leave the sentence, the grant of a permit does not vest rights and current standards for grading stormwater management.
You move that to the bottom.
Well, I'm kind of the way you read it. If we left that sentence in the middle after the first part of 3 states, an approved special or conditional use permit shall vest the applicant's right to construct, blah, 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 an approved plan. Then go to the grant of a permit does not vest rights and current standards for grading stormwater management. And then after that one's done, later adopted regulations shall apply respectively only. Because the compliance required by state law or demonstrated threat to public health or safety would go back to the grading or stormwater management. This original phrase was written by our attorney. It was put in here. They're the ones that the current board of commissioners and the attorney is the one that gave us this.
If we do that, then the only point of discussion, the only other thing to confirm or change would be the 5 or 1 year period.
So if you do it like their suggestion, eliminates what concerns like the drainage and stuff, which is what we were originally trying to do. And we don't have any effect on that. The board is just going to understand everything.
How about this? Let's put this on pause, and I will try to come up with a wording, and we can talk about it the next time and see if that way we don't bounce back and forth. Trevor's probably already asked ChatGPT to write it for us.
Our technology.
That'd be great if we could do that. In the next work session. Anyone have a problem with that? Moving on to next page, section 3. Anyone have a problem with changing termination date to expected life of project?
Makes more sense to me.
Sir?
Simple enough.
So we go ahead and make that small change. Does that say?
Make the change.
Yeah, go ahead and change termination date to.
So we make the changes when we get rid of the comments.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we gotta clean stuff.
That's what I was.
Right.
Be at that.
I'm sorry?
It needs to be at that. Expected life of the project.
And
Are we on D, John?
yes,
I thought there's, I kinda wanna know at the beginning where it's gonna go.
they may not have those.
I mean, I get that the,
They would have discussions already that they would have, but they might not actually have the final.
to me, that's a company's scapegoat to say, we don't know yet, then we get going, we may decide that we're not gonna keep it here, you know. The county's acceptance of a project may be based on, it's gonna help the county. You know, Free State comes in and says, we wanna put up a 20-acre deal, it's gonna help the residents of the county by lowering their bills, and then they come in later and say, we're gonna sell it, it's gonna go somewhere else.
But either way, it's gonna have to get on level, which means it's gonna probably have to go through Evergy's system, which I would think would be regulated by the Kansas Corporation
Right.
Commission. And that's what we're talking about here. is, they may have talked to the KCC, but KCC may not have acted on that, their request yet.
Okay, so they're saying that at the application, that's too soon.
Right, we could provide documentation, okay, this is the plan that we're working on. But all the T's haven't been crossed and the I's dotted and the agreement actually in place and approved by the KCC. If approval is needed.
Okay.
Isn't what you say the same as to provide both, or am I reading it wrong?
I think they're saying that at the application stage, they may not have that. But before energization or commencement of operation, they will have to have it.
They're saying an application, they shall give you
They can
the
provide
options that they're looking at,
but they can provide all of that documentation
without changing may instead of into shall. And that's, whatever you guys decide.
So the recommendation be that after provided, go,
Just add the old stuff in.
yeah, but change may to shall. And I know we've gone back and forth on shall and must.
And then this language in lieu of final approvals, I'm not sure what that's going to, if you're trying to do both, I don't know. I think the original intent seems to me to be, tell us who you think you might be, what will, or maybe could interconnect with.
or is proposed to connect. Is proposed to connect to interconnect.
I think that's the second part of that application, that's what they're trying to get out there.
So before they go into operation, they need the final approvals. But at the application period, they get the preliminary stuff.
So if we, and if someone has better wording, so one possibility, the name of any business or energy provider that is proposed to interconnect with the system, period. Evidence of regulatory approvals or permits for such delivery shall be provided, period. At application, the applicant shall provide available interconnection correspondence, queue status, study results, or evidence of active utility review.
And eliminating more,
in lieu of final, we could, whatever everyone thinks.
In lieu of final approval.
Because this is at the application, this is the application stage we're talking about here.
Yeah. That doesn't really, I wouldn't think.
I would be fine with just adding that entire sentence after provided.
After we provided,
Evidence of regulatory approvals or permits for such delivery shall be provided before energization or commencement of commercial operation. Semicolon. At application, the applicant may provide available interconnection correspondence. Blah, blah, blah. In lieu of final approvals means they don't have final approvals. They're allowed to
At
give
that
these,
stage.
at that stage, they're allowed to.
You went shall instead of may?
And, yeah,
Yeah, they don't have, I mean, if you leave it as may, then they don't have to tell you anything.
and then maybe follow the modification.
So you talk about leaving it as provider that will,
what was used to name.
Jonathan proposed
On that first sentence.
in the first sentence that is proposed, so then is proposed or will.
I don't care. So we need this tomatoes tomorrow.
Would you put that up?
Take out on that first sentence there, stating, provider that is proposed, take out will, take out the word will and say include, or insert is proposed to, and that would continue, so,
How's that?
everyone ready to move on?
When you get rid of that last comment in parentheses,
Yeah,
Yeah, and
tell you that.
right.
3A.
should we just put toward that end, no commercial project? And that leaves out the limited scale.
So limited scale could be put right up adjacent to a city limit.
Well, with a I mean, that needs to, as they
Needs to
said,
differentiate
it needs to go by the city. And if the city wants to put it in,
Yeah.
but it is the county jurisdiction outside the city limits.
Three states that strike all the red out. So. One has this in the green one that says these need to be much smaller for limited scale.
Part of the, just a point of information.
That makes sense.
Part of, just a point of information, it's been a while since I've looked at it, but unless things have changed, Evergy has serves all 9 cities here in the county, except for Bolton, which is a unique case because it's a municipal utility. Evergy, again, unless this has changed, serves all the other 9. Plus, they have a corridor that gets them to those cities. So everything along 75 on both sides of the road for a certain distance, and I don't remember the exact distance, a mile, 2, maybe 3 each side, is all Evergy corridor. So anything, so a co-op, I would think, would not have the right to put just because it's not their territory, within that corridor. And then there's a similar corridor on 16.
Would that just be considered an easement though, and not a territorial jurisdiction?
The KCC, if I understand the sequence of things, the KCC has granted certain territories, physical geographic territories, to not just obviously Evergy, but all the other utilities, including the co-ops in the state. There may be a possibility that the co-op could put something. Obviously, there would be negotiations that would certainly have to occur between those two bodies, possibly with KCC approval. So the distance for a co-op might actually be more, just because it's not a territory. That may not affect how we word this. Kind of see it.
I mean, the point of this is to say that you're not going to take up 2,000 acres within a mile of the city limits for commercial, but a limited scale being 20 acres isn't going to affect the future growth.
Right.
So could we say towards that end, no part of any CS, ECS project may be placed, I mean, leave that the same, and then add in a sentence that says limited LSCCSs will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis in coordination with the affected city. I mean, use Free State's language strictly for an LSCCS.
Kind of leaves it open-ended, subject to those negotiations, good solutions.
You're right. It doesn't put a restriction in place, it allows for, again, that's what I see.
So you're leaving that 1 mile and 2 miles the same?
For CS, ECS.
For CSAs.
So why is the difference between 1 mile and 2 miles?
The Highway 75 corridor in our comprehensive plan has been listed as a development district. So if you took 2,000 acres out of that would inhibit the future growth of the county.
Everyone okay with Luke's recommendation?
But If it's over 2 miles from the city, then it can still be close within that corridor, for the only reading it, if it's north or south.
Meaning, it couldn't be within 2 miles radius of Warren.
But it could be between, if there's a point in between there, it could still be put in theoretically.
Not if it's on the corridor.
It doesn't say if it's on the corridor, it just says within city limits.
Okay, so you're saying that the difference between White and Manhattan is 7 miles,
Yeah, I'm not.
then they can put it at 5 miles.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
But they're not gonna, those cities aren't gonna annex 2 miles out.
but if you're trying to protect the corridor, then.
Well,
then
if there's cities on the corridor,
Yeah.
I get, I mean, that's,
You know, if the corridors for development or businesses, then if it's some smaller buildings in there, then, that takes a whole chunk.
right, that's why I'm saying not to allow. So Stephen, how about this? Towards that end, no part of any CSECS project.
CS, you said?
CSECS. Any place within 1 mile of the city limits of any city. So we can unstrike all of that. And then skip down to,
And include the 2 miles too, also?
yes. And then in the red, under Free State, with regard to LSECS, then I think that says, with regard to LSECS, location compatibility with municipalities and future growth areas shall be evaluated case by case. Coordination with the affected city. Right. Does that seem reasonable? Comma?
Yeah.
Yes, boss.
So you're not trying to protect the corridor, you're just trying to protect the city. Is that right? No, if it's in the corridor, they can still put it there if they find something suitable for them.
In certain areas.
It would be specific, not in, just not in the city.
But that's, the reason for that is to accommodate the future growth. So you can't protect the city all across the county.
Well, just initially, we were talking about protecting
It's the future growth, because if the city wanted to expand, but they couldn't because that was in the way,
So is there a need to protect the corridor within the corridor?
no. This is a part of it protecting the city.
But I mean, is there another paragraph that would protect the corridor? To protect
What?
I don't know, we just talked about protecting the corridor.
Well, it's the cities on the corridor. I mean,
I see what you're talking about.
The whole corridor is for, to keep it for development, so for the protect the city or not, so
Here we're just talking about the city's own corridor.
if you want to protect, I mean, if you take out the section 2 on there, that's.
well, but then that would be up to this body to say, we don't want it there.
But they'll say, well, that fits the new roads. I don't know how much to stand on. They've already spent much money. And this is from Walker. And theoretically, it probably wouldn't happen, but it shouldn't be working for everybody.
Do you have a sentence of proposed wording, Brad?
I'm just bringing up, I mean, it's just a thought that I have right now, so I don't have any proposed. I mean, the idea is we're also protecting the corridor for future use along there. The business may not want to develop.
But that's, it's only labeled in that certain area. Like there is a gap between Hoyt and Etta that is not on, in the suburban tier. So, yeah, all of this land between Holton and Netawaka.
That would be open.
Again, I'm telling you, so that's gonna be in that energy territory or what.
So so this picture is what I'm on.
That's a suburban tier.
So really, is anything that doesn't need is out of some kind of use there.
Yeah. US 75 highway tier is the light purple.
So
That's in a certain radius around the city.
so we actually have quote legal language, US 75 highway corridor, and yet we don't have that delineated in the map as any specific thing. And where is that designated in Wood County? We don't know what we're referring to if someone comes to look at this and they go, well, where's the corridor? It's not on the map.
Is it not US Highway 75? Any city that's on the highway?
Depends on what you define corridor is that,
To me, the corridor would go a half mile each way because that's how much the KDOT owns. Right away in this.
doesn't say right there, for the KDOT prohibition.
That's just me.
Yeah, news to me, but I think the idea is apparently a sitting here, but you get a bunch of attorneys together to see how can we manipulate this and figure out how we can make it work for us and not the county. Literally tearing apart every word.
Can you reference that future land use map? So it's in the county road, right?
That's a comprehensive plan.
Can you reference it? This document will be in that book also eventually.
This would be the roads, but that's a different plan. It's approved also.
So I better go back into definitions and put
Yeah,
corridor.
is there something in there for that?
It's gonna be the same thing we could just add a definition of that.
I mean, yeah, you could define the US 75 or important definitions, and it would help with that.
Or just put it, any city along the US 75 highway tier, because that is in our,
That's the time.
it's in our land use map. It's not as corridor, it's US 75 highway tier. But that only, it doesn't describe the land,
So you just get rid of corridor tier.
yeah.
At least that would have some.
Be capital P.
Yes, it is in there.
If you look at that land use, future land use to map,
Tier tire.
There, I,
quickly notice that the distance from extending out from 75
Sounds
varies
like tire.
all through the county.
okay. So, we just do it within 2 miles of any incorporated city?
That makes a lot of sense. We'll just keep it that way. Yeah,
We'll just say,
it's got to avoid the whole definition, because it's defined.
right, any. I mean, that's how it was, I think, in the beginning, was 2 miles, and then they moved it to 1 mile. Probably because this proposed project is that close to deal with. Well, we could clean that up and just say 2 miles of any incorporated city.
Instead of all those sentences.
Yeah.
Just take out the word corridor.
You're what?
Just take out the word corridor.
No, I'm saying you can just change that whole thing to all cities at the same distance.
That'd be another possibility.
So you're saying towards that end, the North Program project may be placed within 2 miles of any incorporated city?
I don't know if it'll hold up. The commissioner may come back and say, I don't know. I mean, is that,
That's not hard. We're supposed to be independent, but we're not supposed to be county.
Alternate suggestion, that would retain the two different distances. So that, so no part of any, one possibility, no part of any CSACs project may be placed within 1 mile of the city limits of any city not on US 75 highway.
That, it needs to go to the 2 mile.
And 2 miles.
Hoyt isn't technically on the highway.
That's true. That's true.
That's where the tier comes in.
That's, thank you for.
They add it, I don't even know if it's considered.
Yeah, the city limits
Well,
share a common border with KDOT right away. I mean, I think they fix that as the border between.
when Hoyt city limits goes,
Well, it's like half a mile, yeah.
it goes to the west side of the highway. City limits goes to Hoyt.
Right, yeah, it's not
That's what you
continuous,
get,
there's a
yeah.
gap. Right, yeah, there's a gap between that isolated parcel and, I think the.
Anyway, yeah,
So you're right. And I don't know if that would, if having that parcel there on 75 would define Hoyt as being in this
Just-
city or not.
you said no part of any CSECS project may be placed within 2 miles of any city listed as a US 75, listed in the US 75 tier.
Or just list the names of those cities.
Well,
Would be another possibility.
but then if they change that later on, I mean, but then I'm saying all other cities would be within 1 mile. So if it's listed in our comprehensive plan being on the US 75 tier, I don't
See if that,
know, make it.
that thing goes through, because they're talking about 4-laning that all the way past Ned and Walker here before long. For 75 highway.
I'm sure they already got the easement for that, though. It's already on the books, I would imagine.
Do what?
The easements are probably already on the books, I would imagine.
I'm not certain of that.
I don't think.
Maybe that's the case.
how it used to say.
No, it-
Not specifically considered, if that's the case yet.
It's just
If
because
it had been planted,
All within 2 miles of the
I think, yeah, it should be a flat 2 miles and not even 1 mile could even yield. That way, the 2 miles will work for Delia out there instead of within a mile.
I don't think the other roads would even know if they close to a mile anyway.
Unless it was a city project.
if it's smaller.
well, the setback's gonna take care of that.
With the commercial scale, we just keep it 2 miles away from
All right, do we split the difference and go 1.5 miles on both of them? I don't know, just throwing ideas out.
Or we could say, you know, here's the standards for C6, here's the different, possibly lower standards. So that's,
Well, it's just trying to describe the, let's just change corridor to tier and be done with it. Looks good.
And then you could change based on,
If something in this comprehensive plan changes,
you would need to refer to tier map in the comprehensive plan, which is really complicated. I just
this,
said,
I mean, this, what if you come in and even if it's 2 miles of any city and they build one at 2 miles and in 10 years the city of Boyd annexes out 1 mile and now they're within that 2 miles.
it'd be grand,
Yeah, but that's,
that's grand.
Those,
I mean, you can't-
grandfathered.
right,
But also we say when it's moved.
It would give them room. Where's that CLPS project?
he's got it on the board.
You guys took that.
That's the proposed language.
Easy to define if you just put any project or place within 2 miles of any segment of any appropriate survey. And then go on for the RDL, scale.
I'm personally fine with what we have there, I guess, but if there's others, I think.
If you use the 2 miles in part A, it kind of goes along with the 2 miles in part C.
Well, but that's redundant because we don't have to, we can't have 2 projects.
In the county,
Yeah, we're only allowing 1. So that's why that's struck. It's because we're allowing 1 2,000 acre project.
North of White Rock. North of White Rock. And the big transfer station back. That was no.
Not to disregard comments that have been made, where are we on Luke's proposal?
Doug disagrees, I agree. We need the other four of you to chime in and say which way you want to.
Probably it's better than 2 miles for all of them, but I don't know a lot about Circleville, but the rest of the towns, none of them roads are good that close anyway. And then the distances you gotta stay away from stuff and do for continuous miles, you can't get that close to the town anyway. So it doesn't really matter. I'll stay away from the city, that close to the town, with all the other rules. Yes or no? Okay. Are you okay with it?
I think it ought to be made till it's all 2 miles instead of 1 mile and then 2 miles. I think it ought to be 2 miles all the way. And that way it stops. But actually I've been there, what is it, it ain't even 2 miles to the border with Clover, where they got those big wind gills up there. And you can walk outside the Clover and you can hear them things making noise.
I'm a yes on that wording. So because it's yes and not yes.
In the point of the whole paragraph is to accommodate the future growth of incorporated cities. Do we in Jackson County envision those cities not on Highway 75 corridor expanding beyond 1 mile? Annexing beyond 1 mile?
Possibly because of Holton did with the Spring Creek Lake Affair. That's separate city's property there. That's a Prairie Lake was not the Raiders. So I can see some city maybe doing that down the road if they need a water source or wastewater. But I can't see that being further than a mile away from the smaller cities.
Boards would probably argue that for the time being, if we don't see an issue with it, we'd be okay to go forward. If something were to come up in the future where there was a conflict, these could always be amended at that time, and that's how we have the hearing process and all that. So we could do it today, and then future us down the road, make adjustments. Because sometimes it's just hard to plan for all the lives and usually events.
So what are we gonna do? We're gonna just leave it like it is and go on, or are we just gonna?
At the moment, that's where we are.
As it's, yeah, I mean, we may have to revisit this when we get at the next work session. If we're tied, give another member that happens to show up at that one.
Give everybody a chance to think about it. It's too long.
Yeah, we can't put it in place if we don't have a
Consensus.
consensus. So
So you can mark that one for
further review.
You want to leave this edit here or go back to the original?
I think losing your word is
But
being
I
on.
would
Can
leave
you
it.
do both? Can you do both? Can you have the original, can you keep what was there before? And then So we have that
Well-
for reference.
We're proposing changing, either proposal is changing the original word. So can we just
Because the proposal right now was just,
describe the discussion that we have? I mean, leave that as a proposed wording change, but then say, this is the discussion we had around this. What do we want to do? I don't,
2 miles or not, 1 or 2 miles.
Yeah, and I think since we haven't resolved that section, I think it's important to keep the comments that we have in that section.
well, we have resolved the
Separate.
separating the Cs and the Ls. We resolved that. Our only discrepancy now is whether the US 75 tier. So maybe put a highlight on that portion right there. But that's what we want to. Because that's what we're disagreeing on. The rest of it we agree.
So the, I believe that, the reason that, exception is there is simply because the city of Horton has a municipal utility. And the city, as was previously discussed, already has parcels where they do specific city functions like.
But do we have any, does the county have jurisdiction over city property?
No.
So then that's why.
Right, yeah. Which, yeah, these rules wouldn't apply anyway.
Alright. So that's why the exception's there, but does the exception need to be in there?
It literally,
Literally B and C.
well, it doesn't, this having it in there conflict with anything else we have. If it conflicts, that would seem to be a reason.
Now, are you talking about city property or within city limits?
Yeah, those are not the same
The
thing.
city property, but the county's gonna have jurisdiction.
Right. Cities, yeah, cities can own property, but they do not have to own it. So there are cases where, in Jackson County, where cities own property outside their city limits and they're not owned.
So the county would still have jurisdiction.
County would have jurisdiction, so that would be a reason to, well, obviously it's a reason for the city to go ahead and annex.
Right, if they came and the county says, no, you can't do that, all right, we're gonna annex it.
Right, and then that jurisdiction questions.
The jurisdiction to have properties directly within the city limits.
Well, I think if we want to take that out, because if it's on city property that's still in the county regulations would hold. So that exception would not,
Supersede.
Would that apply?
so do we take that out?
So take out 3B.
It's only the distance restriction. It's not the whole restriction, it's not this whole regulation, it's just the distance.
So there's primarily city property, but it's
It's
not
in.
considered, but it is considered within city limits, that portion of city limits and so.
So all that is talking about the distance restriction. Meaning, if Hoyt owned land 1.5 miles outside their city limits, they're not gonna enter into a contract with the commercial scale anyway. Leave it in, I don't know.
Let me just work through this. So, going back to the service territory map that we looked at briefly earlier. Let's say It is to, provide a possible future scenario that somebody decides to put in a housing development just outside the Evergy territory in around Atchison, New Free State, or one in Amiga.
Blueston.
Houston, thank you.
Which is
Right, yeah, which is that? Whatever that is, Irish. And they decided to put that in just inside the co-op's territory. The co-op decided, so they said that the electric service will be then provided by that co-op to that new subdivision. The city annexes it. Obviously, the city annexes it, and then Free State, one of these two wants to provide the power to that. Obviously, maybe, depending on which city it is, their facility would need to be either 1 or at least 2 miles away from that new isolated annexed parcel. I don't know if there's anything there that would alter.
And then all they asked was why we have an exception. I think we've asked that question ourselves, and
so in line with what Trevor was saying, should we go through this first time and get the 99% of the projects and not the 1% of things that are
yeah.
gonna take 99% of the time? Yeah.
With that in mind, we're going to leave it for now. For future review along with the answer. Yes.
Delete C. It's already been struck out. Maybe it's Free State struck it out. Or we struck it out.
No, we struck that out of one.
So I'm just gonna delete C then.
So, let me propose this, what happens if through litigation they knock out the 2,000 acre restriction on the Would that affect the rest of it?
If they do that, we might have to do a deeper review of everything.
It's too late then.
That's been my fear from the beginning. We could put that clause in right on page 1 that says any litigative action against the county results in a forfeiture of conditional use permit.
Is that even enforceable?
I don't know. But is any of this enforceable?
Every word's was a litigated.
That's-
Want to.
I was gonna say, because technically what we're doing, as many lawyers that the average one of these companies has got, is gonna overflow this whole county. And they'll go through and just pick it apart and make it work like they want it to work anyway.
Not to dwell on that too much, but going back to that paragraph we were talking about.
Yeah.
If there's a landowner that's within that radius, or the,
That
that wants to
nice.
sign this deal, they're gonna sue the county because lost revenue. There's,
No matter what business is chosen.
yeah, this thing is ripe for lawsuits.
I just suspect, without being legal opinion, the 2008 thing
That 2000 acres thing couldn't even be brought up or
is the first thing we go after.
That's why they agreed, already agreed to, because they know that they know that there's a way out.
Yeah.
That's why they went for
So we're on D, I believe, is that
Can you in and unstrike it? And see?
right? That was
it.
removed,
But what's the,
on or before March 26th, but it was.
well, it's,
What
but
about
the reason was we're not having two, we're only having one. That doesn't set the acreage limit. That just means there can't be two conditional use permits. So that sentence doesn't make sense in that regard, that there can't be two projects. There can be, I mean, if they sue for more acres, whatever, that's still that same project. So then the 2 mile limit doesn't.
unless they have multiple projects with different companies, 2,000 here and another company, 2,000 here.
But that's another conditional use permit, and we're only allowing one conditional use permit.
If that's, if that is real. So you keep that in and you, I don't know if you want to or not, because I don't think that's expulsion.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is that opens the door, saying, well, you,
Well, you maybe want to.
I just don't think that.
What is project extent defined
We provided a map.
It is,
It's true.
316. Project extend is all land containing the site project area by a single operator or owner measured based upon the land ownership or lease of parcels, including all setbacks, buffers, and administrative.
So the entire area.
Yes.
But is it defined as a rectangle? So could it encompass a whole bunch of stuff that's not in there?
It's the smallest rectangle that encompasses the project area.
So there could be a rectangle that has a whole bunch of non-participating land within it.
I think the idea behind that was to,
Which one, D?
to not have a bunch, I mean, to try to, if it's gonna go, to try to consolidate, to where you don't have a field here and a mile over, another field over
The
there.
LSPCs and so on.
Well, it's mainly in the CS.
On the Free State comment, they talk about multiple sites, but we're going to Free State on one site, right? In this Free State comment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, and that goes back, I mean, in the multiple sites, that's in different LSCCS. I mean, an LSCCS can only be a 20-acre site.
Yeah.
Then if you have another 20 acres, that's another permit. It's not the same. So,
So they could be side by side, unless you do something about
To me, what would be helpful in D is to have some maps. You get, with the computer saying, okay, here's an example of the project extent. Obviously, we can all mentally picture, that's 70%. What that number would be. That's
you gotta
not
go
the
way
question.
back.
Right, that's not the question. To me, the question is, what does a project extent look like in the project area with our currently proposed setbacks? What does that look like physically?
So this was what Kate drew up for us.
To me, it would be helpful to have, I'm not looking for a map of the whole county showing different parcels. What I'm looking for is just an example of, here's the project area, here's the project extent, here's how our setbacks apply to those, to try to answer the question that Brian Matthews has asked. I need an actual drawing to illustrate.
Are their comments based only on limited scale, or are they commenting on the commercial scale also? I thought they were only commenting on the limited scale.
I think that would be where their perspective comes from.
I didn't say it's on limited scale. When you do good, you shouldn't have to worry about it.
Right. I mean, unless they were planning on putting 5 acres here and 5 acres over there, and then to get to their 20, but that doesn't make sense. I don't know why.
It doesn't make sense for money, it doesn't make sense for the rest of the anything.
I think one limited scale conditional use permit is for that one site. If you don't use all 20 acres, that doesn't matter. That's for that site. Like the one at North Horton is 1.5 acres or something. It's not very big.
I thought that one was 3 acres.
It might, I didn't think it was, it's not very big, but it could be.
I was thinking that they done a 3 acre set deal for it.
Maybe so. But anyway,
Because I know it was brought up once, and we were talking about it, 2 months ago or so?
do we want to stop there? Stop here.
757,
I was gonna say you're about out of time.
Why don't we, we've got 4 here in a row that are, well, 3 here is the really got something to do with it. Tells me I'm more.
See how smooth is that
discussion
change?
as far as reach its max for the
On C there, if you just put in the project extent of the commercial scale. The CSE, CS, or whatever.
You'll say that.
Right there at the top of C, if you say in the project extent area, in the project extent, and you have commercial scale. No, so
C7.
Or in the CSECS project extent. So strictly labels. Yeah, I'm with you there.
They get pretty well away from this, we're supposed to be commenting on limited scale, not the commercial scale.
Right.
Just for clarification, in addition to what you're addressing, it might be helpful to, at the end of that statement, just have a line that does not apply to all sites. Just for clarification, what to do there.
Let's call it.
You're talking about going back to the original language.
All meeting.
Just a second. I think we're-
So it makes more sense.
Well, you're not gonna apply it, you know,
Right, but I think we've almost resolved that. We'll want to add that. Okay, so are we in agreement to, say in project extent of S, CSEX basically? And then add a line at the very end, this does not apply to LSEC. Just for clarification. So that's one of the stronger lines that we had in. So because I didn't hear you. That was one of the stronger lines we had in there, to make the rest of it make sense. I'm not sure that.
Because they basically changed it to cover the world, small ones.
Yeah.
You're correct, I mean, it is 3 acres.
I thought that's what.
3 acres of canopy. It's on a 5 acre site.
What are you talking about?
The one over.
Okay, are we good with that provision to D?
What he was talking about there?
Yes. This is-
Which is not good when you do all this. I got it down.
this is-
Do we want multiple sites in the CSEC?
The copy that we got.
You're not gonna reprint a new copy of this, are you?
No.
Okay.
That's really what we're talking
No.
I think it's, I think it can use it on each one.
Yeah.
On each one.
I would ask, would ask everyone to put today's date on your front page of tonight's document, just to help you keep track of which one it is.
What you saying, John?
Put today's date on,
that's
the
what-
version, which is what it is today, between the 30 and 25th.
That's what I've been doing, is writing on which schedule.
Just to help you keep track which copy you're looking at.
We also need to work on the calendar.
Do we have, I'm trying to remember, do we have?
I know we do have a meeting next, this week, a regular meeting coming up.